Greetings everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Captain Rye, and today's YouTube video is another subscriber submitted replay. This one comes from Skullzam. I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And he is in the Tier 9 Russian Destroyer Light Cruiser combo, the Udaloi. Now the Udaloi at Tier 9, unlike its Tier 10 counterpart, does not get a heal, but it does come with an incredibly good smokescreen. As the battle gets underway, it's Tears of the Desert, it's Domination match mode, everybody's favorite match mode, and our hero is headed off to the A cap point. Now he does have some backup coming up with him, but right at this particular moment he is pretty well isolated. He's already opened up on one of the enemy destroyers here, and he is causing this destroyer a lot of punishment. Surprisingly enough, though, that destroyer has not opted to fire back until just now, and for the most part it looks like he's missing. I'm kind of confused as to what's going on here, but our hero very quickly makes short work of that enemy destroyer, securing himself with a first blood with 14,000 damage done with just his primary armament. And now, of course, there's nothing that is within range that can detect him, so he can go and secure the A cap point unmolested. In the meantime, his team has managed to capture the C cap point, but there is at least one enemy destroyer sitting in that cap, and they are contesting it, so no additional points for his team just yet. But of course the enemy team hasn't managed to capture a location yet, and this does mean that because they've lost a ship right away, they're down on points. The enemy team started off this battle having the destroyer advantage. That means having one destroyer more than the enemy team, but of course it clearly didn't matter because he got himself deleted fairly quickly. It's about this point that it starts becoming a realization that the enemy team has got a good number of ships that have decided to come down this direction. Now, that's an interesting decision to make. On one hand, if you spawn on Skullzam's side, the A cap point makes sense in the respect that you have this nice big island that you can hide behind to provide yourself cover. On the other hand, it doesn't make much sense for your destroyer because your whole team is going to hide behind that island and not provide you the backup and assistance that you need. If you spawn on the enemy side and you go to the A cap point, you're going to be pretty much wide open and exposed. And that's going to leave you, well, open to a lot of fire incoming and of course being spotted. Because he has managed to capture the A cap point and the enemy team is not currently contesting it, his team is going to start gaining the points advantage, and that's going to prove to come in really valuable later. He pops a smoke screen and starts opening up with his guns, and of course he pops his smoke screen mostly just because there are a lot of cruisers up here, and cruisers love nothing more than to shoot at destroyers, especially big Russian ones that aren't moving. Of course, if you've got a really good player, they'll shoot at the big Russian destroyers anyway because they are the most annoying things in the world, and removing their flamethrowers from the game is always a nice thing. And definitely, battleship players really do appreciate it when you do that. But just look at the rate of fire on this ship. The Udaloi is not a bad Tier 9. It's just putting out a rate of fire that's, well, to be fair, it's almost on par with the Fletcher in its rate of fire. But of course, the Fletcher only gets 5 guns, and the Udaloi gets 6. Which means the Udaloi has better front-end firepower. The rate of fire just that little bit slower, but the amount of damage that the high explosive does is just a little bit better. And of course, the chance for fires on them is absolutely ridiculous. However, RNGesus doesn't seem to be wanting to offer our hero any additional fires other than the ones he managed to set on that poor destroyer right at the beginning. The enemy team has managed to secure the C cap point. In the process, they've managed to kill 4 of his teammates that were over there, including one of their destroyers. So that is going to give the enemy team a destroyer advantage. RNGesus finally grants him reprieve with shooting and sets a fire on that battleship. Of course, that battleship's secondaries are opening up. And if you remember from yesterday's video, I said if you were in a destroyer, you didn't want to be too close to other ships, especially if you were low health, because the secondary gunners, as well as main batteries, might fall short and cause you damage. And that's kind of what has happened here. He's taken some damage as a result of those secondary gunners just dropping hot lead everywhere. I guess torpedoes off at this battleship, but the battleship is turning, so it's unclear whether those torpedoes will hit. But nope, the battleship's turning back. Of course, he's also on fire, which means he's going to be burning in several places. The question is he going to hit him with a torpedo before he burns to death? And he does manage to do it, securing his second kill in the game. His team has managed to kill a few more ships, but the enemy team also managing to kill a few more ships. Now, the Udaloi has some pretty short-range torpedoes. So, in comparison to other Tier 9 destroyers, you do really have to get close to use these torpedoes. But if you do manage to do that, they've got a fairly fast reload, which means you can basically come around an island with ambush tactics and wreck whatever came around that island, drop off detectability, run away, and perform the same action again. Or you can play it like a light cruiser that doesn't have a citadel and just continuously fire at them while you close in on them, knowing that, yes, they're going to do a lot of damage to you, but they're not going to citadel you. Skolzam moves himself into the B cap point. At this point, pretty important to get that second cap in order to prevent the enemy team from gaining any more of a points lead, especially if they kill more players. Now he opens up here, and of course the detectability mechanics as he opens up here is immediately detected. Enemy destroyer pops up here, and this could be a little bit of a bad situation because that destroyer does look like it's got big, angry Soviet guns, or big, angry guns in general. Now, he pops the smoke screen, so a smoke screen was available. As he does that, enemy destroyer no longer being detected. Did cause a good amount of damage to him, though. Didn't take a lot of damage in return, fortunately. Enemy team no longer has the destroyer advantage, yet again, because they've managed to kill one more destroyer. Enemy cruiser up here is kind of using the islands for cover, and at the same time, kind of not. Smoke screens are torpedo magnets, and here come the torpedoes from that enemy destroyer. And he manages to thread the needle there, dodge those nicely. Has the friendly ship that was up here at the B cap point with him get taken out of the game. So he's really got to work hard at this point to defend the B cap point. Now, if his team doesn't lose any more ships at this point, and he and his fellow teammates can effectively just hang on to the B cap point, that gives them a very good advantage to gain the points lead. But it really does require that no more members of his team die. Another enemy destroyer pops up here. He gets shots out at him, and yes, he starts wrecking this poor destroyer, who decides nothing better to shoot at, might as well shoot at the Russian destroyer, who's managed to knock his engine out. And it looks like he's got a speed boost going on top of having that engine knocked out, so that could be a little bit of a problem for him. Speaking of engine boosts, Skolzam manages to start his engine boost up. That's one of the advantages the Russian destroyers have. They have this high, incredibly high top speed. It looks like his torpedoes are going to hit that destroyer. Come on, can he do it? Oh my god! They die just short of hitting him. I absolutely hate when that happens. But he's keeping up the withering rate of fire down there on that very low health destroyer, who slams on his brakes, pops his smoke screen, and it looks like he's just unable to finish him off at this particular moment in time. However, he is still getting shots out on that other destroyer, causing quite a bit of damage. And he does have a friendly destroyer for backup. However, because of the detectability range, again, he is being spotted by the enemy ships there, which means technically the destroyers that are in those smoke screens can shoot back, and they do shoot at his teammate here, who's also getting shot. I'm kind of surprised that they opt to shoot at his teammate rather than shoot at him. More torpedoes coming in here. Ooh, this is going to be tight. Scraping some paint on that one. Well, just about. Does dodge it, though, which is excellent. Now, enemy destroyer pops up here. They are contesting the B cap point, but they're nice and close at this point. So he gets shots out here. Can he finish this little destroyer bastard off? Come on. There's the one that's incredibly low health. He finishes off the first destroyer. Can he finish off the second destroyer? Secure a double strike? Ooh, not quite. It's a little unfortunate. Does manage to hit him. Doesn't manage to sink him. I absolutely hate when that happens, when you hit them, but unfortunately don't cause enough damage or hit them in a damage-saturated spot. There's the final enemy destroyer has popped up, and he's got all his health. So our hero switches targets over to him because, well, he is the only one that's visible at the moment. That other destroyer is still somewhere out there and very low health, and there he is. He's popped up. He switches back over to him, and with any luck, he can land just that one last shot. Does knock out a module, but doesn't kill him. Come on, so low health. Get those shots out there. The guy is maneuvering hard. He absolutely does not want to die, and I can understand why. Enemy team takes out the friendly destroyer there, but of course, they're taking out ships in return, too. So his team still holds 2 caps. The enemy team down to just 3 ships. But he's got to deal with this Iowa. Now he switches over to the armor piercing because the Iowa is giving broadside. Some of those shots are going to break apart. The Iowa's belt armor is pretty good at these kinds of ranges. And of course, the Iowa is going to start turning. However, he can fire the armor piercing into the superstructure and do a good amount of damage. He gets his torpedoes off here, and hopefully the Iowa will continue in a wonderfully straight line and sail right into them. He gets 2 of his 3 sets off, and it looks like he's going to get turned around here and get the 3rd set off as the Iowa disappears thanks to his own smoke screen. Enemy team manages to 1 more ship, and now it's a 3 versus 3 situation. But his team does have the destroyer advantage. Only problem is, one of the destroyers is more like a light cruiser than an actual destroyer, with its large detectability range. However, it can start a lot of fires, and with high explosive loaded, he should be able to start burning down this Iowa, who is in the process of shooting at his teammate. And he does manage to kill his friendly destroyer on the team. But of course, he sets that Iowa on fire twice in the process. Pops his speed boost consumable, and at this point now he's just stopping his firing, and he's trying to break contact. Now he's earned the Confederate medal for all the damage he's done at this point. Enemy team now fully in the process of contesting the B cap point as our hero effectively runs away. He does manage to drop off detectability. That's going to make it really difficult for the enemy to spot him and know exactly where he's at, as neither one of them has RDF. One of the few times that RDF actually would be a viable, useful thing when you're dealing with one lone destroyer that you know is going to be harassing you. He gets his torpedoes off at that Iowa, continuing to shoot at that Iowa, who has finally put out the fires. But of course, that Iowa is no fool. He is maneuvering around pretty heavily. But you'll notice that Skolzam is staggering his torpedoes. So he's firing off one shot, turning, firing off another shot, turning, firing off another shot. And that's going to make it incredibly difficult for this Iowa to avoid all of them. Of course, it looks like he is going to get hit by one right there on the bow. Can it cause some flooding? No flooding, but he does set him on fire, which is good. And that Iowa doesn't seem like he's got a damage control ability at the moment. Of course, he gets shots out as he gets a second fire set on him. Most of his shots tended to miss. It looks like one of them might have bounced, and the ones that did definitely over-penetrated. That last enemy destroyer pops up and is giving away his position. He's got his torpedoes reloaded. That I was burning in at least 2 spots. Problem is, it looks like the enemy team is going to capture the B cap point, mostly because, well, it was the destroyer who had all of the cap progress. There's this high caliber award as a result of all of the fires that he's set on that Iowa. One of the fires is out. The second fire still burning. The question is he going to burn down, or is that fire going to get put out just before he does? He does put the fire out just before he burns down. Skullzam putting shots out here. Can he finish him off before he gets his heal up? Yes, he does. Arsonist Kraken unleashed for his 5th kill. And now there's just one lone destroyer left. Enemy team does have 2 of the cap points, but Skullzam's team is now in a commanding position because this destroyer really doesn't have a lot of options. It's effectively kill this guy, or he's just going to go recap. And if he's going to do that, enemy team, well, Skullzam's team, up on points. And he is just wrecking this destroyer. And yes, he manages to secure the kill on that destroyer for 6 kills, at least 3 of which were destroyers. And actually, now that I think about it, 4 of his kills were enemy destroyers. 171,000 damage done, 618,000 credits earned, and then just look at that XP. Clearly, first one of the day with modifiers. First Blood, Arsonist, Confederate, Kraken Unleashed, and High Caliber. Top of the team for XP earned at just over 3,000 base XP, puts him way up there on the team's list. An incredibly good job by him. He definitely carried this team to victory, going in and holding that B cap point for as long as he did and getting all of those kills, especially dealing with the destroyers. The Udaloi, a destroyer hunter. Who knew? Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. If you liked the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me and my channel, you can do so by becoming my supporter on Patreon. Any support level will grant you access to some of my World of Warships replays and screenshots early, and some that don't quite make it to YouTube. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my channel with my wonderful commentary voice, you can send it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play World of Warships, Armored Warfare, among other games live, usually Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard or Pacific Daylight Time, you can follow me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.